Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're stepping into the electrifying world of 1930s Paris.
We are, yes, guided by Whitney Scherer's historical fiction novel, The Age of Light.
Right. And our mission today, our focus, is really digging into how Scherer portrays the artist Lee Miller.
Exactly. Not just, the facts of her life, but what
Yeah.
drove her, especially during her time with Man Ray.
And for this deep dive, we're drawing on summaries of the book and also various reviews.
That's right, to try and unpack what makes this portrayal, well, tick.
Okay, so let's dive right in. Lee Miller.
Yeah.
As Scherer presents her, what jumps out first? She wasn't exactly conforming, was she?
No, not at all. The reviews really hammer this home, how the novel gives us this strong female viewpoint right at the start of her career as an artist herself. And Scherer seems to capture, well, her complexity. She's bold, defiant even, not just one thing.
Yeah, you get a sense she's pushing back against,
Yeah,
well, against everything expected of women then.
absolutely. Makes you think about the constraints she was operating under.
It definitely sounds like a life lived with real passion, but also one with serious challenges, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get taken seriously as an artist.
Oh, for sure. It wasn't just about having the talent.
No.
And the summary mentions her experiences with trauma. That seems important.
No, so.
Well, Scherer apparently weaves that in, not gratuitously, but as maybe part of what forged her resilience. You see how these difficult experiences might have shaped her, fueled that drive to carve her own path. She's portrayed as a survivor.
Okay. And the setting itself, 1930s Paris. It feels like more than just a backdrop.
It really does. The summaries highlight this. Paris, then. It was buzzing. You
Yeah.
know, artistic freedom, intellectual energy everywhere.
A real ferment.
Exactly. And then you contrast that with what's coming war looming over Europe. It creates this inherent tension for the reader.
And Scherer brings the city to life.
Apparently, yes. Very vivid descriptions. You really get immersed in that atmosphere. Understand how it must have felt for an artist like Miller to be there then.
So within this scene, we have the core relationship, Lee Miller and Man Ray. It starts in 1929. She's his assistant. How does Scherer depict their dynamic?
Well, it's incredibly complex. Not simple at all.
Okay.
On one side, you see her own artistic talent really blossoming while she's working with him.
Right. The sources mention solarization, that photographic technique.
Yeah, her co-developing that. So there's genuine creative spark collaboration there.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
Seems like it. The reviews talk about jealousy, paranoia even, creeping into the romance.
Was that just them? Or something about the whole surrealist scene, maybe? They weren't exactly conventional.
Probably a bit of both. You know, the summary notes how surrealists often rejected traditional norms in everything, not just art. So maybe their intense, sometimes difficult dynamic fits that broader context, but the novel doesn't seem to excuse it. It shows the real emotional toll.
So Man Ray isn't painted as, like, the mustache-twirling villain.
No, definitely not. The summary stresses it's a nuanced portrayal. You see his affection for her, apparently, but also how his ego, his insecurities, well, they overshadowed her work sometimes.
Which makes their breakup, which we know is coming more impactful.
Exactly, more poignant, because it wasn't simple. The novel really digs into that process.
And we get hints of her later life, too. Her marriage to Roland Penrose, stopping photography for a while. How does knowing that affect how we see the Man Ray period?
It's like subtle foreshadowing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It frames the Man Ray relationship as significant, yes, but not the only defining thing. It's a phase, a really important one in her bigger journey. Suggests she was always moving towards something else, something that was purely hers.
So the story's really about her transformation, from being maybe defined by that relationship to finding her own artistic strength.
Precisely, asserting her own identity.
And even though the book focuses mainly on Paris in the 30s.
Right, we know, as the sources remind us, that her career took off later. She became this incredibly important war correspondent.
A pioneer, really.
Absolutely. So this earlier period Scherer explores, it's like laying the groundwork for that future strength and independence.
And her childhood, her relationship with her father.
Yeah,
That plays a role, too.
seems so. The summary mentions a lasting impact from a tumultuous past. It suggests it influenced her art, her relationships, even how she saw herself.
Adds another layer to her resilience.
Yeah, likely fed into it.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. Themes. A book set in the 1930s. How does it still speak to us now?
Well, the whole backdrop of political, economic, social change, It feels relevant, doesn't it?
Hmm.
The summary points out that artists today are still wrestling with similar things, responding to current events. So the novel offers this historical mirror, in a way.
That's interesting. And what about the art world dynamics? I saw a note about her maybe feeling hesitant around other female artists like Ilse Bing or Claude Cahun because of Man Ray.
Yeah, that's a fascinating detail. It touches on, the complexities within artistic communities. Maybe female solidarity wasn't always straightforward, especially when power imbalances tied to male figures were involved.
So even in a supposedly progressive scene,
Old biases could still linger, create hurdles, and the novel apparently doesn't gloss over Man Ray's less flattering aspects either, exploring his mistakes and their fallout. It adds to that whole picture of power dynamics.
right. So pulling it all together, what's the overall vibe from the summaries and reviews about The Age of Light?
It sounds like a really fascinating mix, historical fiction, but breathing life into real people.
Speculative storytelling almost.
Kind of, yeah. And the portrayal of Lee Miller herself is consistently called out as vivid, intense. You really feel her artistic drive, her struggles. It's not just a dry recounting of fact.
More visceral.
Exactly. Visceral is a good word.
And the reviews use words like daring, intimate, magnetic. Sounds like it hooks you in.
Yeah, suggests it's a real page-turner. That Scherer creates this unforgettable character in Miller, someone you root for.
A captivating story overall then, weaving art, love, war.
Mesmerizing, one review called it, a portrait of self-discovery, of transformation, capturing that essence of finding your own voice, breaking free from just being someone's muse.
Okay, but there was that one review point
Mm.
about wishing it covered more of her life, beyond Man Ray. Does that feel like a major drawback?
It's a fair point, I think. Her later life as a war photographer was so significant.
Huge.
Yeah. But maybe the novel's strength is precisely because it focuses so intensely on this formative period. It allows for that deep dive into the relationship and her emergence as an artist then.
Okay, makes sense. So recapping, The Age of Light gives us this really compelling portrait of Lee Miller, artist, survivor, navigating 1930s Paris.
Her relationship with Man Ray is central, absolutely, but it's ultimately about her journey towards independence.
It gives this backdrop of huge artistic and social shifts.
And Scherer's portrayal, the vivid setting, the exploration of these enduring themes, artistic passion, self-definition, it sounds like a really rich experience.
A deep dive into a crucial time for art and for one remarkable woman.
Definitely.
So final thought for you, our listener, to maybe chew on. Think about the dynamics back then, artistic partnerships, the struggle for women artists to get individual recognition. How much has really changed since Lee Miller's time?
Good question.
When you look at creative fields today, do you see similar challenges? Or have we genuinely moved into a space where recognition is more equitable? Are there still echoes of what Miller faced? Something to ponder?
Indeed.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.